Hello friends, Charlie Murphy here. Thank you for choosing my video, playing a session of 1-2 no limit games on Ignition today. Upper right hand table, opening King Queen from the cutoff using the 28% range. Get 3-bet in position. I would 4-bet to call off here with Jacks plus and Ace King, possibly 10s. Could go either way on that one, along with a handful of bluffs like Ace Queen offsuit and suited wheel ace or two. Going to be pretty tight with the calls out of position. King Queen's going to be a fold. Situation's getting wacky with these guys cold calling the 3-bet out of the blinds. I think that makes me a bit more inclined to call with some pocket pairs, getting the juiced up price to try to hit a set and otherwise be a bit more cautious with some of the more marginal calls. I'm also more incentivized to 4-bet and get the money in here, as I'm going to pick up more money when the 4-bet gets through. So I think 10s become a very clear 4-bet where it was kind of on the cusp before. King Queen I'm going to fold either way. Go ahead and put some tags on these guys for doing silly things like cold calling 3-bets pre-flop. Playing 1-2 today as the 2-5 and 5-10 games didn't look all that good as I was trying to get them. Didn't seem particularly fishy, so I think I'll just relax in 1-2 instead. Lower right-hand table, open an ace-jack suited under the gun using an 18% range. Recreational player calls out of the small blind. Big blind comes along as well. Multi-way, but in position to all players. I'll neither be range betting or checking. I'll be looking to split here. At King, King, Deuce, Rainbow board is pretty dry. I would bet if I had deuces full, I'd bet most of my trip kings. And I think I'd be betting hands with good removal to King X. Hands like Queen Jack, Queen 10, Jack 10, especially with backdoor flush draws to pick up some cards where I can have some significant equity. Hand like Ace Jack high, no backdoor. I'll just go ahead and check that back. No backdoor flush draw, that is. Turn is the Queen of Hearts, gives me a gut shot. Would start stabbing at this pot. If it checked around again, everybody shows weakness checking twice. Here, drawn to the gut shot on a paired board. I think I can just go ahead and fold out, especially with another caller in there as well. Lower left-hand table, going to open 10s from the cutoff using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, get under the gun, 2.5x open. A couple recreational players call, one from the cutoff, one from the small blind. Jack 8 suited, I'm going to be a bit tighter here with the extra players in, but this hand's going to play well multi-way, especially against Rex. So I'm going to go ahead and call, closing the action and check range on the flop. Lower left-hand table, got called in position M by the small blind. I'll check range, multi-way, sandwiched between a couple of players. The Queen 5-3 rainbow board checks through. We get an 8 of diamonds on the turn, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. I'm not too worried about a queen with everybody having checked the flop and the small blind again checking on the turn. I'm going to go ahead and stab at this pot small with my 10s, both for value and protection. Let's see here. Upper left-hand table, going to go ahead and jab at that turn small after the flop checks through. I do have a gut shot. We're pretty multi-way, but I've got some equity here. Lower right-hand table, he goes ahead and calls my turn bet. I'm going to go ahead and do kind of a thin, mergy river value bet here, expecting I'm not going to get raised enough to really punish me. You can get some value from 8x pocket pairs. Don't want to, against a Queen X or trips, I'm going to have to check call anyway, so I'd rather lead and get value from 8x or ace high or stuff that just thinks I'm suspicious and help justify all the bluffs I'm going to do there. River, I brick out, 2 players call. I've got Jack high. I don't want to just surrender and show this down. I'm going to go ahead and bet about 2/3. Not going to overbet necessarily. It could be getting trapped. Just want to go ahead and try to fold people off some marginal stuff that they could have floated the turn with. Mid-pocket pairs, busted draws. Probably not a great bluff candidate in that I just, I have bad removal. I block hands like King Jack, Jack 9, Ace Jack, stuff that could have floated the turn. There, and I get raised. It looks like I probably was getting trapped. I'll just go ahead and quickly fold. Pocket 10's my river bet got called by 10-8 suited, so I did get value off of that 8. Upper right-hand table, 2.5x under the gun, a short stacked fish on 30 blinds calls for middle position. I've got jacks. I'm going to go ahead and put in a squeeze. Squeezing about 6% here, pretty tight. Probably a little loose to pop up against that bloated isolation raise in the lower right-hand table with ace-5 suited. Probably want to be doing that about 6-7% and stacking off against a jam with queens plus ace-king, mixing the other hands that can raise and then fold against the jam. Stuff like jacks or maybe 10s, the pocket pair's not quite good enough to go broke with there in that formation. Ace-queen and some suited Broadway cards, something like that seems pretty reasonable to me. Giving me a semblance of balance pre-flop there. Upper right-hand table, recreational player limps under the gun at about 35 blinds. Folds to my small blind where I've got King Jack suited. I'll be isolating him up with a tight, aggressive range, about 12%. Pocket 8s are better suited Broadways, Ace-10, King Jack, that kind of stuff. It 3-bet in position, 3-bet small, however. Interesting spot. I don't know a ton about what we do against big blind 3-bets after small blind isolation raises. I do know that I want to be tight against an in-position raiser in what amounts to a loose formation where I'm only opening about 12% right there. Let me see here. Because that size is so small, even though I usually fold King Jack to an in-position 3-bet, the size is so small, just over about 2.5x or so. I can go ahead and actually defend with a hand like this. Check range on the flop. Get a queen 8-5 rainbow board. If I had a backdoor flush draw combo of King Jack, I'd be planning to check raise and planning to dust off on turns that give me equity, such as the backdoor flush draw coming in on the turn or picking up an open ender to something like a 10. Plus, I've got nice removal to the queen. Here with King Jack, no backdoor flush draw. I think I can just go ahead and fold. I would definitely be looking to check raise this board aggressively if I had backdoor draws that I could stuff in on the turn. Lower left-hand table, get a 3x open under the gun. I'm in the big blind with 10-9 suited. I will call, closing the action. Check range on the flop. I face a small bet on ace-5 two-tone with no backdoor draws. I can just go ahead and fold. Upper right-hand table, I'll open king 10 from the button using a 44% range. Recreational player calls from the big blind, checks to me. I'll put in a small range bet here on 5-5-3 rainbow. some pretty decent games here at this particular stake right now. 1-2 seems to stay juicy no matter what else is going on. Lower left-hand table, recreational player open limps the button. Another rec in the small blind completes. I'll check in with 8-7 and check range in the flop. I do have a gut shot on the 6-4 deuce two-tone board. Flop checks through. Turn is the 9 of clubs, closing the flush, giving me an open ender, and I do have the 8 of clubs in my hand. I'm going to stab for the minimum with my open ender. Mostly following through on the river as a bluff, or if I hit a straight on a non-four flush card. Now he goes ahead and jams his entire 50 to 85 stack into a pot with 7, 8 bucks in it. I think I could just go ahead and fold 8 high to that. Tough competition here going on right now. Lower right-hand table, recreational player open limps the button. A half-stack player in the small blind completes. I'm going to go ahead and raise up out of my big blind with pocket nines, raising a tight range, something like 8s or 9s or better, suited broadways, ace-10 plus, king-jack plus. Rec comes along for a call, small blind folds. Get a pretty clean flop, queen, queen, 7 rainbow. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small range bet and mostly be checking the turn. Upper right-hand table, the rec open limp, small blind completes. I'm going to go ahead and isolate from my big blind with king 9. Towards the bottom of my ISO range, but still good enough to do here against a rec that's limping. Lower right-hand table, I get min raised. He clicks it back to me, 1368 into on top of 684. I'll go ahead and call with my 9s and check the turn. Rec limp jams over my ISO out of the blinds. I'll go ahead and fold king high. The rec goes ahead and bets half pot again after raising the flop the minimum. I'm going to continue calling with my 9s. Nice clean run out. Only thing better would be either a queen or a 9 river. And goes ahead and bets half pot, and there's just no folding for half pot against recreational players. He's got king 8. Pocket 9s are good. They were good all along. I pick up a half stack from a guy who's just clicking some buttons. That same rec limps. I've got queen jack suited in the small blind. This time going to pop him up again. This time he calls. Get an 8-6-3 rainbow board. Going to go ahead and range bet him small. Looking to pick up a pair with my overcards and get the money in. Or pick up the pot on the flop with my small cheap bluff. I get called. I get a lousy turn, a 4 of spades that should not scare him and does not help me. So I'm going to go ahead and check. Can reopen the river as a bluff if the turn checks through, or reopen the river for value if I hit a pair. Upper left-hand table, recreational player limps under the gun. I isolate with king-queen suited. Rec in the small blind comes along. The limper folds. I get a low board. I'll go ahead and range bet him small in position. It called. Turn is the ace that completes the 4-card straight on that low board. Now I get led into with no real equity. I'll just go ahead and fold. Would be calling with any 3x, which I'm not going to have a whole lot of, my sets, my good ace-x, my flush draws, or anything stronger than that. King high, no draw, I'll just go ahead and fold. Lower left-hand table, opening 10-9 blind on blind, using a 45% range. Upper right-hand table, get a 3x open, then a 3-bet from the cutoff. I'm on the button, going to be playing cold 4-bet or fold. Queen 10 is probably a bit too loose to be cold 4-betting here to stack off with. Yeah, most certainly is really not even all that close. I'd be stacking off with queens or better, ace-king after the cold 4-bet, mixing in a handful of bluffs, mostly Broadway-type cards that play well if I get called and block a lot of the continue range, particularly the suited combos, but ace-queen offsuit can get in there as well, too, as it just performed so well as a pre-flop bluff. Lower left-hand table opened in sevens from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Get called by a presumed recreational player playing on a little bit more than a half stack, playing about 65 blinds deep and a little on the loose passive side so far. Pre-flop, flop a great flop for me, 7-6-4 two-tone. Going to go ahead and put in a small range, but I got top set, looking to shovel a lot more money in this pot on most runouts. But he check folds. Lower right-hand table, 3x open blind on blind. Queen 4 goes in the muck, a bit too weak to call or to even bluff raise with. Lower right-hand table, got a 2.5x open from the button. I'm in the small blind with 10-9 suited. I'm going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet. 3-betting very aggressively, about 15% in this loose formation, including all my suited broadways, suited 9x type hands. Pocket 5s are better, all suited aces, ace-jack plus king-queen, something like that. Flop a nice combo draw, double gut shot, and a flush draw on the king-jack-7 two-tone board. Going to go ahead and put in a small range bet. And mostly look to keep barreling or check raising with a hand this strong, or at least this potentially strong. Turn is the deuce of spades, closing my flush. I'm going to go ahead and continue betting for value with my, smaller flush, 10 high flush in a 3-bet pot. Go ahead and use a half pot sizing in that flush closing board. Could have hands like ace-queen, particularly with the queen of spades, or look to keep blasting off here as well with great removal to the top pairs and the flushes, the nut flushes. Turn barrel takes it down. Lower left-hand table, 4-3 suited on the button, a little bit on the cusp here, and the small blind's been aggressive 3-betting, so I'm not going to open it. Fish in the blinds, passive players nits, I'll deviate and open with it there. And it's fine to open anyway, I just have some hands that I typically open and some hands I typically don't, and that one's just typically on the outside looking in, but it is pretty close. Upper left-hand table, I open ace-king from middle position using a 21% range, get 3-bet to 18. From a player that's been loose and aggressive so far. Well, I guess he's only played a couple lower bets. He's 3-bet 1 chance out of 4, not 2 times out of 5, but otherwise been aggressive 33-23 over 36 hands pre-flop. Going to go ahead and put in a 4-bet to stack off with queens plus ace-king, mix an ace-queen offsuit as a bluff. He quickly jams. I'll go ahead and call off. I'm against ace-king as well. He flops a draw on the flop, though, with his king of clubs and hits on the turn, so I lose a 50-50. C'est la vie. I did win ace-king versus kings, button versus big blind in a 2-5 table before I started recording, though, this session earlier, so I'm not going to cry too much about losing out on a flip right there. I guess not a flip, but a hand where we have the exact same equity pre-flop. We have the exact same hand, and he just happens to hit a 4-card flush. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from the button. I'll go ahead and 3-bet out of my small blind with ace-5 suited. 3-betting very aggressively, about 15% in this loose formation. Upper left-hand table, recreational player open, limps under the gun. I'll isolate from the button with aces using something like my cutoff open range, about 28%. popped up here. He goes from 9 to 35 by that aggressive regular in the small blind. Let's see. I really cannot 4-bet small and fold here, so my 4-bet size is going to be jam, or I can call. I'm going to go ahead and treat this more like a 4-bet pot where I go ahead and call with aces. We're already getting kind of bloated pre-flop, and this guy should have a lot of bluffs in his range. I don't want to blow him up here. I'm going to trap with the ace. I think that's a very good play here. I think that's much better than 4-bet jamming or 4-betting small to a size that I obviously can't fold against. I'm going to go ahead and call the half-pot bet. Lower right-hand table, we're facing a 3x raise over a limp. I'm going to go ahead and call out of my big blind for that small size and try to get into the pot with a hand that's going to play very well multi-way. Upper left-hand table, after I've called the flop bet, turn is the ace, giving me top set on a 3 Broadway board, only lose to queen 10. Got a little less than a pot size bet left here. Really don't want to check and give a free card to any sort of queen X or 10x hand. I think perhaps I want to just go ahead and bet small. I think I can bet real small, like a quarter pot here. Maybe even smaller. I'm going to bet like 30 into 140. Maybe a half pot left on the river. Could induce a spaz jam. Be hard for him to call with any kind of pair plus draw, or hard for him to fold rather than any kind of pair plus gut shot. Lower left-hand table, opening king-jack blind on blind using a 45% range. We'll check range on the flop. Guess you saw through my transparent little turn jab there. So be it. Don't want to give a free card there when a 4 straight can come out. Let's see here. Lower left-hand table, flop checks through. A turn is the king of clubs, giving me top pair and a flush closing card. I do also have the jack of clubs to help me out as well. He quickly calls my turn jab. I think I want to try to get some value from weaker kings or some kind of middling pair. I think betting here is much better than checking. I'll go ahead and use a 2/3 type size. Interesting. He goes ahead and puts in such a small raise. I don't really know what a raise that small means, but I know I've got top pair and I've got a flush blocker, and I'm getting 4.5 to 1 on my call, which means I'm going to call down there based on pot odds. He banked his gut shot to the wheel. Probably has value a lot there for that sizing, just because he can't expect me to fold too much. But when we see a sizing that small, I'm just not going to start folding hands with showdown value, or I become massively exploitable. Lower left-hand table, open ace-10 from middle position using a 21% range. I reckon the small blind calls and checks to me. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet in position. He check calls. Turn is the 9. We had an 8-7-3 two-tone board. Turn is the 9 of diamonds, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. I now have an open-ended straight draw. I can have all kinds of sets and straights here. I think he shouldn't be nearly as strong, having not raised on that flop. But you could have hands like Jack-10 as well, but I do block that. But because I can have 7, 8s, 9s, 3s, and Jack-10 suited here, I'm going to go ahead and use an overbet sizing on this board, and the open-ender here with ace-10, no real showdown value with ace-high, is probably a real good candidate to have in the overbet turn range. Let's see here. We get a 5 completing the 4 straight on the river. Now he goes ahead and he leads about 75%. I'm not going to try to bluff raise a fish there. If he had checked to me, I was going to keep shoveling chips in there with my ace high with real good removal to possible straights. When he leads into meat, however, I'm just going to go ahead and give credit and fold out instead. Just a smaller size, blocking type size. I probably find a bluff raise in that spot, but against that larger size up from a rec, just going to go ahead and give respect there when I don't have any real showdown value. That rec min raises the button. He's been very loose and very passive, but against a min raise, I don't care how tight his range might be perceived as being. I'm not folding suited cards for a min raise in the big blind, so I'll go ahead and call with queen 7 suited. Check range on the flop. He stabs for half pot on 9-3 deuce rainbow. I've got queen high, no back door. I'll just go ahead and fold. Upper left-hand table, opening king-queen suited from the button, using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table, again opening, this time from the cutoff with king-jack, using a 28% range. Half-stacked recreational player calls me in position, as do both blinds, one of whom is very certainly a rec. I will check range sandwiched between all these players in the multi-way pot. Looking to check fold this ace-8 deuce two-tone flop where I've got no piece of it except for king high, no backdoor flush draw. Large sizing from the in-position player, 14 into 19, particularly a large sizing for a multi-way pot, so I'll be check folding my king high. Lower left-hand table, opening king-queen under the gun, using an 18% range. Upper right-hand table, got a 2.5x open from the under the gun player. Going to go ahead and defend my big blind for a call, closing the action with 10-7 suited and check range on the flop. Lower left-hand table, we get a king-jack-6 two-tone board. I'll check range the in-position player, suspected recreational player, new to the table but already been limping. Upper right-hand table, the in-position player, an aggressive regular type. He goes ahead and bets about 1/3 pot. I'll check call with second pair and continue checking the turn. Lower left-hand table, lousy turn, a jack pairing the board. I no longer have top pair good kicker. Well, I do, but there's also possible trips out there as well that beat me. I'm going to go ahead and lead the turn small. He quickly calls. I'm going to go ahead and try to get, I wouldn't even classify this as thin value, but somewhat thinner value here from weaker kings, middling pocket pairs, ace high, or help justify my bluffs as well, which are going to follow through unimproved on the river. And I get called, and my hand is good. Upper right-hand table, after I check call with middle pair, we get an overcard, the jack. Now I have third pair, and there's a straight out there that's possible on that 3 Broadway board, and I've got no blocker or draw to it. I'm going to go ahead and fold against the turn barrel for 75%. On the lower left-hand table, we had got called down by ace-deuce that rivered a pair, called the turn with ace-high, ace-deuce offsuit, and then called the turn with ace-high, and then called the turn with called the river with bottom pair. Given that he's calling middle position against an open from under the gun with ace-deuce offsuit, I think my assessment that he's a recreational player is spot on. He's obviously playing way too loose pre-flop. Upper left-hand table, opening kings from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower left-hand table, opening deuces from the button using a 44% range. In the upper left-hand table, the recreational player comes along out of the big blind. He checks to me. I'll go ahead and range bet him small. Get a nice clean flop for the kings, 10-7-3 two-tone. But unfortunately, he quickly check folds against the small bet. The wreck left us already after 2 orbits. Lower left-hand table, going to open aces from the cutoff using the 28% range. Get 3-bet in position by an aggressive regular type player on the button. Has already been 3-betting 3 times out of 20, playing 33-27 over 53 hands. Very active, aggressive pre-flop type. In this formation, I'm going to have no problem stacking off with 10s or better plus ace-king based on what I'm seeing from this guy so far. We'll go ahead and 4-bet with the aces, of course. Mix in ace-queen offsuit and a couple of wheel aces as bluffs. Lower right-hand table, open queen 7 suited blind on blind using a 45% range. I'll check range to the big blind on the flop here. He checks back on the queen jack 5 two-tone board. Turn is a 9 of spades, flush closing card. I've still got top pair. Going to go ahead and probe at that turn small. Aces get jammed into. I'm, of course, going to snap off. Run into kings, just a cooler, but I'm happy to pick it up. I'm here for it. My hand is good. My small lead faces a small raise. I'm going to go ahead and call that, thinking it could just be a variety of stuff, trying to get the showdown for cheap and check the river. Lower left-hand table, going to open the cutoff with ace-9 using the 28% range. And he had a kind of marginal 2-pair, second and third pair on a straight and flush possible board. I don't mind his play, though. Get some value from better, such as top pair or draws, and also gives him a chance to not face a big river bet when I check and flow. He really only gets himself in trouble when I go ahead and come over the top with the 3-bet, which I probably won't be doing that much because I'm not expecting that many raises from that player right there. So my 3-bets are probably going to be pretty nutted in that spot. Lower right-hand table, opening jack 8 suited from the button, using the 44% range. King 10 on the upper left-hand table, slightly loose to open under the gun, but I do have that recreational player I want to get involved with, so I'm going to go ahead and bet out, seeing if I can get in the pot with him. I also haven't been getting 3-bet by these other players all that much, so I think that's pretty reasonable. Lower right-hand table, my big blind calls my open. I'm going to go ahead and range bet small in position. Do have a marginal top pair on jack 10, 5, two-tone, and a backdoor flush draw. Upper left-hand table, the recreational player did call me in position, as does the big blind. The big blind leads into me for about 40%. I've got top pair. I'm going to be calling, mostly calling my entire continue range in position. My sets to trap in case somebody 3-bets. And a lot of draws and, more marginal hands like single pair hands, like my king 10 I have right here. But keep those all together to make my range easier to play and to protect my weaker hands with my stronger hands. In the lower right-hand table, I get 3-bet a pretty decent size, about 2/3 a pot. I'm going to go ahead and call with my top pair and backdoor draws, of course. Upper left-hand table, the in-position player calls as well. We get a Queen of Hearts, a flush closing card. I'm just going to go ahead and check and play this more passively and slowly, multi-way, with some weird action on the flop with that donk from a reg-type player, and now straights and flushes becoming possible. Face another barrel, a 1/3 size bet on that flush closing and board pairing card. I think that's an appropriate size. I really don't think I can be folding top pair for that. A 5 or a jack is a great card for me. I'm going to go ahead and call and evaluate the river. Against this 12 into 32 bet from the in-position rec, I'm going to go ahead and call with my second pair and check to him on the river as well. He goes and bets less than half pot for that kind of size. And I'm not good all the time here, but I'm good enough to justify the pot odds I'm getting from these recreational players that click buttons. I will call. Not expecting to be good. I'm not, but expecting the pot odds justify it. Well, I'll be good often enough to get there. He goes ahead and shows down his set of 8s there after I call. Lower right-hand table, I've got a top pair on a 4 flush board. I'm going to go ahead and just turn this into a bluff at this point. I could have quads, I can have jacks full, 10s full, or I can have that flush. So I'm going to go ahead and try to move him off a hand here with a hand that no longer has showdown value. And he quickly folds. Upper left-hand table, the rec limps, small blind completes. I check with Queen 10. I'll check range on the flop. I do have second pair on 10 Jack 5. Lower right-hand table, I'll open Ace 5 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. Rec blast for pot, small blind calls. I'll fold my middle pair. Rec overbets on the 4 straight board and has the nuts with the queen, as they usually do when they start sizing up to those bigger overbets. Small blind called with ace deuce, which I see no reason to call with ace deuce. I guess he had a backdoor flush draw, but really not all that strong a backdoor flush draw when you're going to have to, it's going to be a 4 flush board if it comes in. And he's calling a pot size bet with ace high on jack 10 5 two-tone limp pot multi-way. I just don't think that's a good play. I'm going to go ahead and tag him as a recreational player as well. Especially, and also paid off on that river, the overbet there with garbage ace high on a 4 straight board against a fish that's 2x potting it. Don't like his play at all. Think he's probably a weak player. Lower left-hand table, blind on blind. He limps in. I check back 3 deuce. He checks to me. I stab in position on queen 8 deuce with bottom pair. He check calls. Turn is a board pairing card, the deuce of spades. I'm going to go ahead and start trying to get some money in this pot here now with the trips hand against a fish. Against a reg, I wouldn't be doing this, but no risk in this room. Just trying to get his money as fast as possible. So go ahead and bet about 1.5x pot. Could maybe even go more like 2x pot here to make my river jam more likely to be called by a queen. I think I like that even better actually against a fish. Lower left-hand table, recreational player opens 2.5x out of the cutoff. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet it on my small blind with pocket aces. 3-betting 10-11% here. Pretty aggressive as this formation is on the loose side. Recreational player on the upper left-hand table, the guy I was just talking about doing funky stuff with ace high in that multi-way pot. He opens for 3x. First hand he's opened. I don't know too much about his opening range other than that he's played every hand and hasn't raised yet. But I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet my king-jack suited in position here. Three bet I'm about 8-9% here, including hands like King Jack that are going to play real well multi-way. Three betting most of my suited broadways. Nines are better. Ace Queen plus King Queen. Maybe Ace 5 suited, something like that. If he four bets, I'll fold. But I'm expecting him to fold or call far more often than he's going to four bet, and I'm okay with either of those two outcomes. He goes ahead and opens, this time under the gun, opens to 4x. I've got kings in middle position and be quite happy to get a 3-bet in here. Three bet to get the money all in with queens plus or ace king. Three bet about 7% here. Lower left-hand table, a rec limps blind on blind. I pop them up from my big blind with king queen. Go ahead and range bet small in position. Do have top pair, good kicker on the queen high board. Upper left-hand table, the rec does call me, call my 3-bet. Get a jack 8-7 two-tone board. I want to play two streets here against the fish. So I'll go ahead and bet about 2/3 and set myself up for a turn jam. He comes along for the call. Turn is the 6 of clubs. I'm not going to be that worried about the fish having hit a flush here, especially after getting more money in there. I think if he's got anything like a pair and a gut shot, a pair and a flush draw, he's going to have a hard time folding. I'm going to go ahead and jam all in for about 75% a pot. Lower left-hand table, opening king jack from the button. Upper right-hand table, my ace king flop top 2 on a 3 Broadway board. Got check call. I'm going to go ahead and overbet the turn on that blank 7 turn. Look to get some more money in on the river if he calls me. Lower left-hand table, he calls me with a pair and a gut shot and a 4-card flush draw. I think it's a bad call-off, but I'm okay if he makes a bad call-off. I like to see that. I got outdrawn, but I got the money in good, and that's what I really care about. Lower left-hand table, going to range bet in position against the big blind after he checks on the ace-7-3 two-tone board. Lower left-hand table, opening queen 10 from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Recreational player calls the big blind, checks to me. I'll range bet him small in position. I've got overcards and some backdoor straight draws on the 9-4-3 rainbow board. Turn is the ace of spades. I guess the wheel is also possible if he's got 5 deuce as well. That shouldn't be too relevant to what's going on here. I think I want to be betting with my sets, my good ace-x, my 2-pair type hands. And probably hands like 5-6 suited for an open-ended draw, or a lot of my flush draws. Not all, but a lot of them, the bigger flush draws. I think a hand like queen 10 I'll just check back, and I've got so many better bluff options. You can still find a way to bluff with this on the river. River is an offsuit 6. He leads into me for half pot. I'll fold my queen high. Against a little bit smaller bet, I'll probably bluff raise him. Don't want to get too aggressive with these recs with the bluff raises. They just find a way to call with all kinds of stupid nonsense. But you can bully them when they show weakness. I'll go ahead and just put in a bluff on the river there with my 5 high against a rec on the upper left-hand table. Upper right-hand table, get a 3x open blind on blind from a tight passive reg. I will defend for a call with 10-9. Lower left-hand table, 2.5x open from the button. I'll defend my big blind with queen jack, check range on the flop. He goes ahead and bets small, 1/3 on a dry board. It's hard for me to have too many real backdoor draws here, so with good removal to the king and picking up a draw on the 10, I'm going to go ahead and put in a check raise here. Upper right-hand table, flop middle pair on jack-9 deuce rainbow. Small blind checks to me. I'll stab for half pot. Could also check this back, but I like stabbing a lot against that check blind B blind. He check calls, turn is a board pairing card, the Jack. I'd rather be betting more polarized here with Jack X or full houses or various draws that now straight draws are still possible and backdoor flush draws came in. I'll check back my middle pair and look to bluff catch or value bet the river. Lower left-hand table, 2.5x open from the cutoff. I will go ahead and 3-bet out of my small blind with Jack 10 suited, 3-betting 10, 11% here, including all my suited broadways. He checks to me, not a great river in that he could have some king X, like king queen could conceivably check call that, or king 10 on that flop could play this way. Plus any kind of middling pair, ace high, might be a little bit less likely to calm me down, especially from a nit. I like going thin for value, thinner than you really should, because these guys don't punish you enough for the check raise, and it does justify the bluffing. But against the nit, they may have a hard time calling me down, and on a card that's not really ideal for the holding I have, I think I'll take my showdown. Ace high or bottom pair, ace deuce for bottom pair, but I don't know if I get that much value there. Lower left-hand table, I open or upper left-hand table, open king 4 suited from the cutoff. Got called by the rec who donks into me for pot on 8-7-3 two-tone. I do have the second nut flush draw, so I'll be calling in position. Turn is the 6, putting a second flush draw up there. Also gives me a gut shot to the low end here on the 5. Let me see here. I think I can check this one back. I want to be betting some flush draws, checking others. I think I'd rather be betting flush draws with the 9 or a 10 or just 2 overcards that are likely to be good here. I think I'll just go ahead and check this one back. Looking to play a smaller pot on a 5, but if the river makes a 4 straight. Can bluff catch with that, but rather keep the pot smaller. Same thing with the king. You know, it's not an ideal card, not an ideal hand to be triple barreling off with weak, or triple barreling for value with weak top pair. I think that hand plays better in the check back line. Betting the turn is, of course, also going to be fine. He reopens the river for pot. Board pairing cards are pretty bluffy from fish, as are low cards. I don't have a hand that can bluff catch, and I'm really not going to start bluff raising against the size up like that. I'm a little bit suspicious. If I had showdown value, I'd be snapping this off based on the board pairing river and the low board staying low. But the size up makes me a little less inclined to bluff catch, and I've only got king high, so I'm just going to get out the way. Upper right-hand table, open ace-5 from the button using the 44% range. Getting smacked around over here on this upper left-hand table. Upper right-hand table, big blind calls and then checks to me on the flop. I'll range bet him small in position. Board is low, rainbow 9-6-4. I got some open-enders to, a 3, I guess a 7 as well, though the 7's not a great card. Plus I've got the ace for an overcard, so I've got a few ways out of this pot here if he calls me. Get check raised, don't have a lot going for me. Just going to go ahead and get out of there. This table doesn't look all that good except the new player in the 3 seats buying in for a half stack, so we'll keep an eye on him as a suspected wreck. Same thing with the 4 seat that's new to the lower left-hand table, sitting 50 blinds deep, making him a suspected recreational player. Couple nice fish on the upper left-hand table as well. Lower right-hand table, no obvious wrecks. In fact, this guy, we were playing at that table earlier with the guy $700 deep, and there was no fish there, so we'll keep shuffling. 2.5x open from the cutoff on the lower left-hand table. I'm in the big blind with 9-8. That's a little bit too loose to be defending, so I'm going to go ahead and fold that one out. It's on the cusp, though. It's pretty close. Yes, I don't have a big problem with the call if that's what you want to do. I just prefer to fold it in that spot, but like I said, right on the line. Spazzy Rec opens for 4x on the button. I got Queen 10 in the small blind, which is a fold. I'm going to 3-bet him pretty aggressively and for a larger sizing than the big blind used there as well. Three bet them more like 34, 35 bucks. But these offsuit broadways are probably not the move. I want a little bit stronger hand as I'm starting to bloat that pot up pretty quickly there based on his large open and me using a large three bet size out of position. Either fold or have the winning hand here, Fishy. Do not bleed chips. I want you to stay pumped up so I have a chance to win those chips. Upper right-hand table, first hand blind on blind, face a 3x open. I'm going to go ahead and re-raise with my ace-queen. Re-raising very aggressively blind on blind is the loosest possible formation. Re-raising 17, 18% here. Nines plus suited broadways, ace-queen plus. A lot of suited connectors, some random suited cards like ace-5, jack-deuce kind of stuff, and then a handful of offsuit cards just outside the call range, like a couple of the low offsuit ace-x hands. Maybe some stuff like 9-7, king-7, queen-7, 8-6 type stuff. Upper left-hand table, king 10, a little outside my standard under the gun open range, but going to go ahead and open it because of the fish on the button and the fish in the big blind, both of which are pretty big fish, and the table's not been 3-betting me much, so I'm not going to get punished for opening looser than I otherwise would. Flop the world there. Queen, Jack, 9, rainbow, and the fish is in that pot. Lower left-hand table, open ace-king under the gun, get 3-bet by middle position. Going to go ahead and 4-bet the stack off with queens plus ace-king. Maybe use ace-queen offsuit as my bluff hand. I normally check range, but I've got a fish in that pot, so I want to start chucking money in the pot now. Going to go ahead and actually lead out for a small size. It's less worried about what this guy thinks is going on here and more worried about getting some money off the fish. My 4-bet gets called, get a queen jack for a two-tone board. A little worried about him having pocket queens, but not enough that I'm going to start second-guessing myself with ace-king. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small range bet. Going to go ahead and bet out for pot this time here with both players calling. Just looking to get some money in this pot if people want to come along. I get called, not a great turn either, that jack, as he could also have pocket jacks that just made a set. Let me see here. My range is going to be aces, kings, queens, ace-king, and ace-queen. None of those hands are really safe enough to trap with, even the sets. I think I just want to go ahead and stuff my ace-king in here if he's got queen. I'm not going to get away from a hand like queens at this point anyway for a pot-size bet. I don't want to give the free cards. I want him to have to call off with worse here. Not an ideal board for him, but I do think stuffing it in is going to be a bit better than checking. So in we go. Doesn't snap, that's a good sign. This is kind of mergy, perhaps slightly too mergy. I just think it's going to be perform better than checking, though. He calls off. He's got aces for a trap, which I like the way he played the aces there, actually. I like the way he played aces very much. I would have done the same thing there. He didn't love the board either, but has to know that I can be playing a hand like ace-king pretty fast, and he's actually way ahead. So he stacks me right there, but ace-king against aces, 4-bet pot, picking up top pair, top kicker against his overpair. I'm not really sure there's much else I should be doing there. Lower right-hand table, a couple of players limp. I'm going to isolate from the button with ace-6 suited, using something like my middle position range, about 21%. I'm going to go ahead and tag both these limpers as recreational players. Get 3-bet by the big blind from 11 up to 42. Just go ahead and fold the ace-6. No reason to defend these the 3-bets over the ISOs. Left-hand table, got a rec limping under the gun. Waiting for the other rec to make his very important decision here, which he settles with limping. I will isolate from the button with my king-jack, using something like my middle position open range, about 21%. Upper right-hand table, open 8s from the button, using the 44% range. Both limpers come along and call, get an 8-9-4 rainbow board. I'll neither be range betting nor range checking multi-way, but in position. Get let into for half pot. I think this should probably be a fold. I was hoping to check it back and realize some more equity from these overcards. You know, especially with the other player that could, you know, do something wacky behind me, I might get myself in a bit of trouble. I'm tempted to float here, but I think folding's slightly more prudent. Lower left-hand table, a player playing on 30 blinds, open limps under the gun. I'll isolate him from middle position with something like my under the gun open range, about 18%, including queen 9 suited. He limp calls. Everyone else is folded. Go ahead and range bet in position after he checks. I do have some overcards on the 6-6-5 rainbow board. Lower right-hand table, 2.5x open from the cutoff. I'll defend my big blind with deuces and check range on the flop. We check folding mostly here on this 10-7-5 two-tone board where I do not even have the relevant spade in my hand. He bets small. I want to attack that with a lot of hands, but not deuces, no spade. Lower left-hand table, he check calls the flop. Turn is a 4, putting the backdoor flush draw out there. I'll go ahead and check back my 2 overcards, looking to make a pair I can value bet or bluff catch with on the river. I don't do that. I get a 4 straight on the 6-6-5-4-8 board. I will turn this hand into a bluff, however, if he checks. Or he goes ahead and leads out small, about a third of pot. We're just going to go ahead and move him all in. He quickly calls off with 7-8, so he had the straight on the turn. I was never getting out of that pot or never winning that pot at least. I think it's okay to try to bluff raise the fish against that small sizing right there. He can bet fold pairs for he can bet fold pairs trying to block, and I obviously can't call with queen high. Lower left-hand table, open an ace-queen under the gun using an 18% range. Rec comes along again. We get a 10-6-3 rainbow board. Assuming he checks, I'll be range betting him small. He does. I'll go ahead and put in that bet. Barrel lots of their overcards that might hit. He goes ahead and raises me from 313 to 826. I got to call 5 into almost 22. Got overcards that are probably good, as well as that backdoor draw to Broadway. I'm floating against that size all day long. Pretty decent turn card for me, the Jack of Hearts, that gives me 2 overcards, a gut shot to Broadway, and the nut flush blocker. I'm going to go ahead and check that back again. River is the ace, so now I've got top pair second kicker. Look to get some value, or at least pick off a bet that comes from this player here. Probably even bluff raise small bets, or not bluff raise, but raise small bets for value against this guy after he just saw me raise all in with queen high as a bluff. Go ahead and try to get value after he checks again on the turn and river. And he folds that one out. The flop float, I think, is mandatory against that small, weak check raise that just doesn't really incentivize me to fold much of anything. Get a 2.5x open from what's effectively middle position on the lower right-hand table. Recreational player calls on the button. I'm in the small blind with pocket eights. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze here. This is right on the cusp of a standard 3-bet spot for me against the middle position open for 2.5x at least. And the sizings involved don't bloat that pot unnecessarily. I'm just going to go ahead and play a sort of standard squeeze range here, standard 3-bet range for the squeeze spot as well. Fine picking up the pot pre-flop. I'm also pretty happy if I can force this guy to the pot, which I should do quite a bit, and can play heads up against the fish as well. Either situation is probably going to be pretty good for my bottom line. 3-betting 8-9% here. What I don't want to see, however, is that 4-bet, which is what comes in. Against the 4-bet here, I'm probably only going to jam kings, ace, king. I think I'd trap with aces. Call with queens, jacks, ace, queen suited. Maybe a couple more combos because he 4-bets on the small side, but eights is going to be a clear fold. Upper right-hand table, going to 3-bet my small blind against the 2.5x button open using ace-jack suited. 3-betting aggressively here, probably about 15% in this loose formation. Upper right-hand table facing a 2.5x open from the cutoff. I will go ahead and defend for a call with ace-3 suited, 3-betting a couple of wheel aces and calling the other ones. I think this one's a fine one to call. If you want to 3-bet it, I'm sure that's not going to make that big a difference either. Check range on the flop. Mostly be check folding this king 10-8 two-tone board. Lower right-hand table, opening king 10 from the button using the 44% range. Big blind comes along. I'll range bet him small after he checks. I do have top pair second kicker on the 10-7-5 rainbow board. It called Turn is a 6 of diamonds, closes the straight on hands like 8-9 or 4-3, I suppose, could be out there in theory as well. Also puts a backdoor flush draw out there. I've got second pair top kicker. I think I want to keep betting this, and I want to be using the overbet or check size. I've got all the 8-9. I've got all the sets. I'm not worried about him having a nut advantage over me. I'm going to go ahead and use large sizings with my strong hands, including hands as weak as overpairs or decent top pairs like ace-10, king-10. Queen-10 is probably right on the cusp, but I think it's reasonable to overbet this one. Of course, can have all kinds of 8x, all kinds of diamond draw type hands that want to be doing that as well as semi-bluffs. Lower right-hand table, the opening 7-6 suited from the upper right-hand table, opening that hand from the button using the 44% range. Lower left-hand table, 3x open, blind on blind. I will defend for a call with ace-10. Upper left-hand table, open the cutoff with king-7 suited using a 28% range. Recreational player calls the big blind, checks to me. I'll go ahead and put in a small range, but I do have a gutter ball on the 9-8-5 rainbow board. Lower left-hand table, he bets into me on the ace-7-3 rainbow board. I'll defend for a call with my ace-10. Upper right-hand table, big blind calls, checks to me. I'll range bet small in position. I do have gut shot and a second pair on the 8-7-4 two-tone board and the backdoor flush draw. Upper left-hand table, turn is the queen, queen of hearts. I can have all kinds of 10x or jack x gut shots, all kinds of flush draws. King-7, no flush draw blocker, I think is probably a bit too weak to be barreling with. I'll go ahead and check that one back. He checks to me again on the river. I don't improve. I'm going to go ahead and turn my king high into a bluff here in the bet check bet line. Upper right-hand table, I get check raise, going to defend for a call with my second pair, my gut shot, my backdoor flush draw. Lower left-hand table, the turn was a king that completed the rainbow in the blind battle. I check back to under-rep my ace-10 and look to get some value on the river, either from inducing bluffs or under-rep to value bet in the call check bet line. He goes ahead and he bets for half pot. Now the real question is here, can I actually raise this for thin value? I'm obviously not folding. Face a second barrel on the upper right-hand table. Don't really improve. I pick up a heart, a pair, a straight. I guess even a 9 is probably a decent card to call with. I'm going to go ahead and fold, though, on the offsuit king. And I'm going to go ahead and try to get some thin value from weak ace, a king X type hand, trying to get thin value, something that just puts me on some kind of janky bluff in these blind spots. Not going real big with the raise, obviously, as I can blow them off stuff like weak ace or king X if I get too big with it. But I think the small size, I can get some thin value there. Upper right-hand table, opening deuces from what's effectively middle position using a 21% range. Upper right-hand table, blind on blind, face a 3x open. I'm going to be defending very liberally in this loose formation. Defend for a call with ace-4. Mix in some raises with some offsuit low ace-x hands. This one I tend to call, but you could 3-bet it as well. I have a low end of the gut shot on the 8-6-5 two-tone board. He checks. I'm just going to go ahead and stab for half pot. Not because this hand really warrants a stab for half pot necessarily, but because the stab seems to get through so much, I think I can abuse it a little bit. He check calls. Turn is a 3 of hearts, flush closing card here. It also gives me an open ender now to the deuce. I think I'm going to go ahead and continue betting and just barrel off here if I don't improve. If I turn another heart, I'll probably just check back and try to showdown my weak 4-card flush instead. Upper left-hand table, blind down blind, open in sixes using the 45% range. Go ahead and check range to the in-position player in that blind battle. I get check called twice. I'm going to go ahead and follow through, turning my hand into a bluff, try to fold him off some pair plus draw type stuff. Upper left-hand table, he flop checks through on queen 4-3 rainbow. Turn is a queen. Going to go ahead and start jabbing small with my sixes. River is a 7. Not that worried about him having too much 7x or too much queen x. So I'm going to go for value on the thinner side here with sixes from 4x, 3x, ace high. Get called, then he turned a 7 there. He had a 3-7 for a pair on the turn. He turned a slightly higher pair on the river. Oh well. He probably still calls me unimproved there as well if it's a total blank. Lower left-hand table will open ace-king suited from the button using the 44% range. Lower left-hand table, a 15-blind player limps under the gun. Going to go ahead and raise him up with ace-queen from middle position. If he limp shoves, I'll beat him into the pot for 15 blinds with 5 of them already in there. Another recreational player calls out of the big blind. The limper calls as well. We go to the flop king 5-3 rainbow. Neither be range betting nor checking in position to multiple players. I'll split a hand like ace-queen. I'm just going to... actually, I do block some decent removal to the king X type hands. I don't know. I'm trying to talk myself into betting, but there's probably no reason to do so here. I think I'll just check this one back and evaluate the turn. Get led into for half pot by the big blind player. I think I can fold against that. Upper left-hand table, I will open queen 6 suited from what's effectively the cutoff using a 28% range. Recreational player calls out of the small blind, checks to me. I'll range bet him small on ace-10-5 two-tone. He comes along for the call. Turn is a 4 of clubs, flush closing card. I've got no club in my hand, no real draw. I'll check this back and look to maybe bluff the river. He checks to the river on the offsuit 8. I'm going to go ahead and put in the bet with queen high. Could have some weak ace X or some ace X with the club type hand. He calls down with 7s, which isn't necessarily a bad call. I don't like it, of course, as it beats me, but I don't think his play is atrocious or anything. Upper left-hand table, opening ace-queen from what's effectively middle position using a 21% range. Upper right-hand table, opening jack-9 suited from the cutoff using a 28% range. I get 3-bet in position on the upper left-hand table. I'm slightly shorter, and this guy's been a little bit on the tight passive side, but I'm still going to have 4-bet bluffs in my range to balance my queens plus ace-king that are still stacking off here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the 4-bet with ace-queen, which in my opinion is the nut 4-bet bluff combo, at least in tight formations where you really can't call with it. And I get something through. Look at that. Upper left-hand table, the Rec limps the cutoff, folds to my big blind. I'm going to pop him up with ace-jack. He calls me, get a great flop for my hand, Jack-5 deuce rainbow. I'll go ahead and range bet him small to start shoveling more money in on most turn cards. Lower left-hand table, opening 5-4 suited from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Upper right-hand table, facing a 2.5x open from the button. I'll defend my big blind with Queen-10. The recreational player goes and he min-raises me. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet him here. Lower left-hand table, opening King-10 from middle position, using a 21% range. And he jams all in. I got top pair, top kicker. I'm going with it. I am against King-Jack. Got him out-kicked. Drawing very slim. That's a good spot for me. River going to go ahead and continue betting with my Queen-10 after I jab the turn small with second pair. The river did close the straight, but I blocked the straight, so I'm less worried about that. Like to be kind of thin and mergy, thinking I'm not getting raised nearly often enough to punish me and to help punish guys that think that my river bets are too bluffy, which, to be fair, they usually are, you know, to give me a bit more value in there for guys that want to start hero calling me down. Lower left-hand table, open ace-queen from the button. Using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table, Jack-6 suited is not a standard cutoff open for me, but I have a player I'm going after in the big blind, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. Also not getting punished with 3-bets all that badly in these games right now, so I think I can get away with open and loose. Want to play hands with the recreational player playing 63-7 with 48% limps, as many hands as possible here. He's liable to make big mistakes post-flop that I can profit from. Folds to the Rec who calls. I get a 10-6 deuce rainbow board. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet in position. He check raises me. Check raises me for pot. I've got second pair and a backdoor flush draw, and we're deep. Looking to hit running hearts or a 6. I'm going to go ahead and float this and see what develops. He checks back. I'm content to check back on that 5, which doesn't improve me. Puts a backdoor flush draw out there. River is a 9. Doesn't improve me. He goes ahead and blasts for pot. Against a smaller size, I could maybe talk myself into bluff catching. I don't know that fish are particularly bluffy in this check raise, check bet line. Take a look real quick. They're a little less bluffy than typical. And, you know, the low board staying low, however, does trend more bluffy. I don't know. The flop check raise size up has me a little bit suspicious. I don't know what he would actually check the turn with, then blast for pot on the river. Given that we're in kind of a looser formation, big blind versus cutoff, given that it's a low board staying low, I think I can actually hero call this. It's kind of close, but I'm going to do it. Oh, he got ace-10. Kind of close, but... Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, a short stack player limps. I pop him up with ace-king. He limp calls. For left-hand table, an open jack-10 from middle position. Slightly loose, but once again, going after this fish in the blinds best I can. Lower right-hand table, I get an ace-queen-9 board, top pair, top kicker. Go ahead and range bet him small, looking to get money in against this guy here on most runouts. Nice blank offsuit 3 for me here. Go ahead and blast him for half pot. Get squeezed real big by the big blind from 5 to 40. He'll fold the jack-10. Fish reships pocket kings against aces, and the fish spikes top boat, flops that king. Sucks for that guy who lined everything up perfectly and just got punished by the deck, but I'm very happy this guy's got a stack. Even though I was quitting pretty soon, I think I'll stick around a little bit longer and see what's going on, just because most of my tables are pretty good. I'll shuffle out the one on the upper right, play a little bit longer. See if I can't take advantage of some of the silliness that's going on in these games. Lower left-hand table, I'll open ace-10 suited from the button using the 44% range. Suspected a recreational player in the big blind in the one seat, buying in for about 75, 80 blinds. Yeah, he's got limps on his record, too. I think we can call him a wreck. Lower left-hand table, open ace-king from the cutoff using the 28% range. Position player calls. Seems like a reg type. He's been 3-betting heavily. He's probably going to be sort of condensed to low to mid-pocket pairs in his range here. We'll check range sandwiched between the in-position player and the big blind on that 7-6-3 rainbow board. Upper left-hand table, the rec open limps. I'll complete my small blind with deuces. Flop checks around, turn checks to me as well on that 7-6-3 rainbow flop, 10 of diamonds, putting a backdoor flush draw out there. I've got naked ace, king high overcards. I'm going to go ahead and jab out small, not expecting the in-position player's got a set having checked back the flop, but probably has hands like 4s, 5s, 8s, or 9s that I can either outdraw or bully off on the river. Lower right-hand table, opening queen-jack from middle position using a 21% range. The in position, or the big blind calls as well. Board pairing river, the 10. I would bluff at this if it weren't for both the players out there. I'm going to surrender multi-way. Called by both blinds on the lower right-hand table. I'll check back with the queen high. I'll just try to check and show down my deuce of diamonds on the 4-diamond board on the upper left-hand table. The in-position player had ace-queen offsuit, which I'm surprised that would not be a 3-bet in that position from a player who has been 3-betting aggressively thus far, but you can never be too sure what these guys are doing, much less why they're doing it. The ace-king high hand, I also, part of why I checked down and didn't follow through on the bluff when the second player called is that I think the 10x is, of course, never folding. Some of the mid-pocket pairs, middling pairs or hands that paired up with the board are probably going to be a little bit suspicious of my river bet if I follow through. And I beat the busted draws with ace-king high. So, well, I was planning to bluff the river against some of these guys. I thought maybe checking down was slightly more prudent in that spot. Upper left-hand table, opening 9-8 suited from middle position using a 21% range. Rec limps, folds to my big blind. I'll check in with Jack 6 and check range on the flop. He bets for overpot, 675 into 475. I'll check fold Jack high on ace 8 deuce, two-tone. Min raise from middle position player on the upper left-hand table. Folds to my big blind where I will defend for a call with king 9 and check range on the flop. Decent flop, weak top pair, and king jack 3 rainbow. Plan to be mostly check calling here. Bet 75%. Check call with my top pair. Turn is a 7, putting the backdoor flush draw up there. Now he goes and he continues betting. I'm a little bit suspicious here because of the flop size up. Let me see here. It's also not a formation that's all that loose. He's really not doing this with worse value. I do not dominate value, so I really can only be calling here if I'm expecting to be able to bluff catch a lot. The triple barrel line is under bluff, the formation is under bluff, and the size up all trends under bluff pretty significantly. I'm going to make a snug fold and fold here. Just not thinking I'm either going to show down enough or pick off bluffs enough to bluff catch properly on the river, so I may as well get out a straight early. Lower left-hand table, open 5-4 suited from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Get a limp from the rec. The button isolates him to 10. I'm in small blind with aces. I'm, of course, going to be 3-betting that. I'm going to pop that up. Let's see. Doing this to stack off with queens plus ace king. Really only a squeeze in here, probably about 5 to 6%, or not squeezing, but raising the ISO up. Lower left-hand table, go ahead and range bet small against the big blind after the check, assuming the check did come and I range bet on the king 9-6 two-tone. I get a 7-6-5 two-tone board. That's a terrible board for my range. It's not going to be a range, but I'm going to go ahead and range check. But of course, I'm not surrendering the aces here. Be looking to put money in if he stabs. He does not. Even worse turn card for me, the offsuit ace. I will continue checking. He goes ahead and bets half pot. Really, I'm only scared of hand. Well, I guess he could have some 9x here. He could also be doing that with pairs that just want to show down. I'm going to check call, check the river. 4 clubs on the river. Now he goes ahead and moves all in. Unless he's smart enough to be doing that with the chop, and I'm only calling for a chop, what a garbage run out for that particular hand and what looked like a great setup. I could be against flush draws that got there. I could be against 9x that he had me on the turn all along, or I could be calling for a chop. I just don't know that this guy who's been on the sort of tight passive side is going to be all that bluffy here. I think he probably takes a free showdown a lot. I'm not calling for the chop. I'm folding out. Ay, 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 ay. What a session. Lower right-hand table, a 2.5x open from middle position. A couple of recreational players call in position. I will call my big blind, closing the action with king deuce suited. Check range on the flop. Get a queen 10 deuce two-tone board. No backdoor draw. Small bet from the cutoff player. We're playing short. The imposition player calls. No reason to call that weak and loose here multi-way. I'll just go ahead and fold out. If I hit something like king deuce with the hearts with a backdoor flush draw, I think I'd stick around and look for cards that improve me. Even there on the king, it's not necessarily that great a card as straights are possible, or I lose to hands like king queen, king 10. Upper left-hand table, middle position player has been very tight passive so far. Min raises, the rec calls from the cutoff. I'll call my big blind, closing the action with 7-10 suited. Check range on the flop. Do get a pretty decent flop, ace queen 3 two-tone where I have the flush draw. Everyone checks. I'll go ahead and stab the turn. That offsuit deuce putting a double flush draw up there. Everyone quickly folds. Lower left-hand table open, an ace-9 from the cutoff. Standard open, part of a 28% range. Everyone folds. Upper right-hand table, opening king 10 suited from middle position, using the 21% range. Get called by an imposition player, and then almost certainly a recreational player playing 75, 80 blinds deep pops me up from 5 to 8. I'm really not folding anything for that. King 10, no reason to 4-bet. Just go ahead and call and see what I hit on the flop. Flop top pair with a backdoor flush draw on 10-6-3. I'll check range to both imposition players. Upper left-hand table, 3x open under the gun. I'll 3-bet middle position with ace-king suited. 3-betting 7-8% here. The imposition player bets 14 into 25. I'm going to go ahead and call with my top pair. Fish comes along. Good turn card for me. 9 of diamonds, giving me a flush draw to go with my top pair. Going to go ahead and continue checking. Lower right-hand table open to ace-8 suited from the button, using the 44% range. Recreational player jams 49 into 65. The pre-flop re-raise or calls. I think I really have no choice here but to get the money in. I don't see any merit in calling to evaluate river. I think I just want to check stuff here. Against jacks, which is not out of the question, but I found a way to outdraw. Face a small 3-bet from the small blind in the lower right-hand table. I'll call with my suited ace against a small 3-bet. Jack 9-5 two-tone, no piece of it, no backdoor draw. I'll just go ahead and fold out. Lower left-hand table, what's effectively the button, I'll open King 8 using the standard 44% range. Do have a recreational player in the small blind. Fish calls, but I get squeezed by the big blind, so I'll fold King 8. Recreational player opens for pot 3.5x over there on the upper left-hand table. I've got kings in the small blind. Go ahead and raise up with the pocket kings. Probably raising 7-8% here, stacking off with queens plus ace king. I get 4-bet. He clicks it back. You know, you're going to have to show me aces, young blood. Let's get the money in here. I'm going to stuff my kings, my ace king. I'd trap with aces and also be calling with queens, jacks, ace, queens suited. Maybe a few other combos against that real small size, less than 2x. But kings are just getting the money in. Against aces, what a day. Hey, but I outdraw. Lower left-hand table, open Jack 9 from the button, using the 44% range. Get 3-bet after the small blind calls. I'll fold to the squeeze. Some of my weakest hands on the button there, facing squeezes, just become instant folds. Lower left-hand table, middle position, min raises. I'm in the cutoff with king, queen. I'm going to go ahead and put in a raise here, raising 10, 11% in this formation, especially against that small size. Lower right-hand table, opening aces under the gun, using an 18% range. Fishy player calls out of the small blind, get an 8-8-5 rainbow board. He checks. I'll go ahead and put in a small range bet, mostly checking the turn actually here with aces. As if I start blasting into an 8, I'm in a lot of trouble, and the aces don't need much any protection from any kind of overcards. I get a queen, queen that puts a backdoor flush draw up there. I'll go ahead and check back to under rep to get value on the river or induce some bluffs. Lower right-hand table, my 3-bet gets called. I have top pair second kicker on king 7-6 rainbow. Go ahead and put in a small range bet. He leads out for half pot. I'm actually going to try to get a thin value raise in here with my aces against anything else that's not a non-8 hand that will probably still call me down, such as king X, queen X, maybe even 5X. My top pair second kicker faces a check raise on the lower left-hand table. I'm going to go ahead and defend that for a call. Get a nice clean turn card and offsuit deuce. And he had queen 9, so he made a pair on the turn there after he floated with overcards in that hand with aces, lower right-hand table. He bets again on the turn. He bets half pot into 92, going to continue calling with my king-queen. River is a 9, not all that scary a card. I guess 8-10 got there if he somehow has that in this particular line, or 5-8. But other than that, the card doesn't really do much of anything. He blasts off for half pot. I'm going to call off with my king. He was blasting off with Jack-10. That he had a backdoor flush draw, turned the flush draw on the turn, bricked out on the river. All right, feel like a hand finally went the way I expected to. A hand went one of the positive ways I expected to for me. Obviously, I'm supposed to lose these things some of the time as well, but I think the trap worked out nicely there. Lower right-hand table, recreational player open limps to cutoff. I'm going to pop him up from the small blind with king-queen, using about a tight 12% range. He comes along for the call. I'm not going to range bet. I range check some of these real bad boards, such as these 9-7-6 coordinated middle boards that I don't really have a whole lot of. I guess I've got some 9x, some overpairs, and I could have a set of 9s, but I'm not really going to be raising 7s or 6s, 8-10 type hands. He checks back. Turn is turn is a 6, not an offsuit 6. It's a board pairing flush closing card. I'm going to go ahead and just probe small with my overcards, try to fold him off some nonsense. River is a 4 flush. I'm going to go ahead and turn my king high no club into a bluff here, of course. Fold a lot of non-club hands out here. You can have various 8x, pairs of 7s, pairs of 9s, and he had the ace of clubs, so of course he's not folding there. Lower left-hand table, the limp pot checks around on the flop. Turn, I'm going to go ahead and jab out small with my third pair. Get raised, so I'm going to get out of the way. Lower left-hand table, the rec limps, folds to my big blind. I'll check in with ace-6 suited, check range on the flop. He goes ahead and stabs for the minimum on queen 4-4 rainbow. I'm going to check call with my ace high, check the turn. He keeps betting I can fold out. He checks back the turn. River's an offsuit ace. Going to go ahead and continue checking, try to show down my ace high, which I get to, and it's good. And for all my moaning about running into better hands and the session not going well, I am outdrawing motherfuckers like crazy. So I am winning money, even though I'm getting the money in bad. Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens occasionally, and I'll certainly take it. Lower left-hand table, a reg, maybe slightly on the tight side, but a reg-type player opens blind on blind for 3x. I'll go ahead and put in a 3-bet from my big blind with pocket 10s, 3-betting very aggressively in this loose blind on blind formation, about 17-18%. I get a call. Lousy board for 10s, queen, jack, deuce, monotone. I don't have the relevant club in my hand. He checks. I will go ahead and put in that small range bet all the same. And I take it down. Lower right-hand table, blind on blind, open an ace-queen, using a 45% range. I'm going to check range to the big blind player, mostly check folding, at least maybe small sizes I can continue on the 10-9-6 rainbow board. Let's see. I can actually continue on any kind of turn overcards. I'm going to check call here once with these two overcards. You know, Jack gives me an open-ender. King gives me a gut shot. Aces and queens give me top pair. 10 gives me nothing, although I do have a backdoor nut flush blocker. That does seem awful thin reason to be continuing here against the turn second barrel. So I'll just go ahead and fold ace queen high now. Upper right-hand table opening jacks from under the gun using an 18% range. Get called in position by a rec, probably by a reg, and then by a big blind, then by the big blind player as well. I'll check range sandwiched between all these guys. Decent flop for the jacks, 9-9-6 rainbow. And we get a large bet here from this recreational player. He bets almost pot. I'm not that worried about him having a 9 when he uses that sizing. I feel like he would probably use a bit smaller sizing. It seems more like he's trying to take this pot down with the hand that's either a bluff or needs a lot of protection. I want to see what the other guys do. The other guys continue. I start feeling really lousy about these jacks. But if it folds around to me, I'm not so concerned. It does fold to me. I think I want to check call this. A little too deep to check raise all in. Continue checking. The turn, if he stabs again, I can get the money in now against pretty much any sizing he might use. Give him a chance to continue bluffing. He goes ahead and checks back the turn. I guess the question is now, is there merit in trying to get value from the bet? I think there is. I'm going to pay off any 9x if he stabs. I think it's a lot more likely he checks down showdown value than bluffs in this bet check line here that he used. So I'm going to go ahead and bet, and I'm going to use a large size, hoping he just hero calls me. I guess I could use a smaller size as well to get called more often, but I think there's more merit in just trying to move all in on this fish and hoping he says, fuck you, I've got 6, I'm not folding. Get 3 bets small in position on the upper left-hand table after I open 7s under the gun. He's a little bit short, and well, it's small size. It's only slightly smaller than 3x. I think I can call that, though. And he also is a little on the short side. It's kind of close, but I think call is going to be reasonable here. Call, check range on the flop. Decent flop for the 7s, queen 6-4. Rainbow, he quickly checks back. Turn is a 3 that gives me a gut shot to go at second pair. I'm going to probe small for a little bit of value and or equity denial against hands like ace-king. River is the 5. Gives me the straight. I think I just want to probably see if he wants to hero call me once again because he's a fish. I want to bet big. He's got about 3x pot left behind. I'm going to go ahead and just jam on him and hope he just has something he can't fold. Got away, but he was probably pretty weak anyway. Upper right-hand table, 2.5x open from the cutoff. I'm in the button with pocket queens. I'll go ahead and put in a 3-bet. 3-betting about 13% here. Lower left-hand table opening 5s on the button using the 44% range. Interesting shit already on the upper right-hand table. A player with 50 bucks cold calls 16 of it pre-flop facing a raise and a re-raise. Waiting to see what the RFI player does. Lower left-hand table, fishy big blind player calls. I'll range bet him small here after he checks to me in position. We have a king 10 deuce two-tone or rainbow board, which doesn't do a whole lot for me. However, the turn is the gin card for me. The 5 of spades putting a backdoor flush draw up there. Now I'm going to go ahead and start betting large, trying to get some money into this pot. I usually use a 1.5x pot. I think I'll even go 2x here, however. Give me a chance to get big money off this guy. He's got some kind of king X type hand that he can't fold. He gets away, but I like blasting big, trying to stack these fish when I've got it. The RFI player folded in the upper right-hand table, got a pot-sized bet left on King Jack 4 two-tone. I've got queens. I'm going to put them all in for that bet and see if it calls me down with the jack. Ace high, draw, whatever. Upper right-hand table, opening ace 9 from the cutoff using a 28% range. Lower upper right-hand table, recreational player calls me in position. I'll check range to him with mid. I've got mid-pair top kicker on Kings 9, 6 rainbow. Turn is an offsuit 7. It puts a backdoor flush draw up there, which I block partially with the ace of diamonds in my hand. I'll go ahead and jab the turn small with my second pair top kicker for value and equity denial. Mostly following through on pretty blanky rivers. I get a small raise. I got to call 7 into 27 here. I'm going to go ahead and call that and check the river to him. Lousy river, the 10, putting the 4 straight out there. I could have some 8x here to protect my range. He had 7-6 offsuit, turned a small 2 pair. I think his turn raise is reasonable. Upper left-hand table, opening Queen Jack from the cutoff using a 28% range. The rec calls me. I'm going to go ahead and range bet him small. I got top pair in the open end to draw and Jack 10-9 two-tone. Lower left-hand table, I'm opening Queen Jack from middle position using a 21% range. Lower right-hand table, 2.5x open from the cutoff. I will defend for a call on my big blind with 5-3 suited. Check range on the flop. Upper left-hand table, the rec check calls, turn is e5, closing the flush. I'll go ahead and continue betting for value and protection with my top pair. He check calls the half pot bet. River is a 9, pairs the board as well. I'm really only getting value now from 10x, could be against straights, flushes, 9x that turn trips. I think it's a little too thin for the third suited value. I'll check it back at this point. Yeah, Jack 8 had him out kicked. Lower right-hand table, we're facing a small bet. I've got bottom pair, backdoor flush draw. Going to go ahead and put in a check raise. Let's see here. Upper right-hand table facing the 2.5x open from the button. I've got 9-8 suited. Going to go ahead and 3-bet out of my big blind. Lower right-hand table, my check raise got called. I did not pick up equity with either 2 pair or a flush draw card. I'll go ahead and slow down and check. He goes ahead and stabs for 1/3. I like his play there. I'm going to go ahead and fold my weak pair against that. Get a Queen 10 deuce two-tone board. I got to be a little bit leery of ace king if I hit my gut shot for that jack, given that we're so deep, and he could actually flat ace king against the raise here very credibly. I'm going to go ahead and range bet small, but I'm going to be very, very cautious on follow-up cards. Maybe a 7 is the kind of card I can start going hog wild on and keep barreling because I've got an open-ender and some of the draws are to the nuts. I think most other cards I'll be checking here. But I do want to go ahead and put in the range bet, try to take this thing down now. You know, I can have queens, 10s, queen 10, ace queen over pairs. I get that 7. Look at that. I get the 7. So now I want to continue barreling. I'll use a 2/3 type size. I think that's probably the most appropriate size. I'm not sure when we're deep. Really looking to hit a 6. I hit a 6, I can start doing some wild shit on the river. Go ahead and continue betting here on that 7. He quickly calls. River is the jack. Now I've got the straight. I'm not that worried about him having ace-king, but he has to be worried about me having ace-king. So I don't want to go ahead and jam here. I want to continue betting for value, but I'm going to use a smaller size. And hate life if he raises on me. and took it down with the triple. Lower left-hand table, face a small bet from the button here. Going to go ahead and put into check raise with my ace-high flush draw. And keep barreling with this particular one. Check raise got called. I've still got a nut flush draw. Going to continue barreling with it. Lower left-hand table, the rec limps, then calls the ISO. I snuck in the big blind with ace-9 suited. Going to go ahead and call his pot-size bet here with the nut flush draw. Continue checking on the turn. Fish calls me here. After I ushered, I'm just going to move them all in with my overcards. River here, going to move all in with my busted draw as well. Get hero called by a gut shot. Face that second barrel. Oh my goodness, look at that hero call. I think that's crazy, but you never know. I like my bluff, and I could easily have nut type hands there as well, like queen jack, 4 is full, 3 is full. I'm going to go ahead and call this second barrel with the nut flush draw and the overcard. Check on the river. Could even be good against a triple check here. He checks back. My ace high is in fact good, so that one works out okay for me. Lower right-hand table, I flop top pair after I open the button with king 9 and against both blinds. Going to go ahead and put in a small bet with my kind of marginal top pair. Dude had the king high draw, so I was right to be in there trying to stack him with the ace high draw. That's for damn sure. Plus, I got the showdown unimproved and good. Can't believe my got hero called down there by 8-3. What the fuck? Yeah, so he called the flop check raise with bottom pair, no backdoor draw. He continued calling off on the turn and the river there with bottom pair. I think that's pretty crazy, but it happens some other time. What are you going to do? I guess he does block one of my full houses. I'm sure that's what he was thinking about, right? Lower left-hand table, open in Jack 10 from the cutoff. Upper right-hand table, open an ace-7 suited blind on blind. Fold in Jack 10 against the imposition, 3-bet. Upper left-hand table, open pocket kings from the button using the 44% range. Get called by the recreational player, and then he check calls my small flop bet on queen 9-3 rainbow. Turn is the 5 of diamonds, putting a backdoor flush draw up there and continue blasting with my kings. I'll use the overbet size here, 1.5x pot. He again quickly calls. River is a 4, also a nice safe card. Trying to decide how much value I want to go for on this guy. I'm not that worried about the 5 or the 4 improving him, and I think a queen X can have a real hell of a time folding. I'm going to go ahead and go for that 3x pot for value on this guy and see if he can calm me down with the queen. Nah, move him off of that one. But I'm going for it against these guys. I'm looking to make some money when I'm in there with them. That's for damn sure. Looking to win a big pot if I got something good. Lower left-hand table, opening king jack under the gun, using an 18% range. Recreational player calls the cutoff. Could have all kinds of nonsense in his range. We'll check range to that recreational player, have bottom 2 pair on ace, king, jack, rainbow. He goes ahead and blasts for pot. I'll check call with my small 2 pair, continue checking the turn. Turn checks through, lousy river 10, putting the force draw out there. I'm just going to go ahead and check, try to show this down. He goes ahead and blasts for a little bit over pot. I will fold out against that. Upper right-hand table, open ace-2 suited for middle position, using the 21% range. Upper left-hand table, get a min raise for middle position. I 3-bet my cutoff with pocket queens, 3-betting 10, 11% here. Get cold called by the recreational player out of the small blind. Don't mind seeing that at all. Upper right-hand table, small blind calls, checks to me. I'll range bet small on ace-jack deuce. Do have top and bottom pair. The RFI player folds. I'm against the rec on king 6-5, a rainbow. He checks to me. I'll go ahead and range bet small. Upper right-hand table, my range bet gets check raised by the small blind. I'm going to go ahead and call that with aces and deuces. Upper left-hand table, I'm going to go ahead and check back queens on the King 6-5-4 two-tone board. River is great. River is a queen that's going to give me a set. I've been blasting on this guy. I'm going to go ahead and use that 3x pot bet again. If he's got a king, see if he traps me, tries to hero call me. I don't think he's folding it. I face another barrel against the ace-deuce hand there. 4 makes the wheel possible, but I'm really just not worried about that guy having a hand that beats me. He goes ahead and checks the river. I got about 1.5x pot. I've got a strong ace and deuces 2-pair hand. I'm going to go ahead and move him all in and try to get hero called here. Lower left-hand table, 3-betting the cutoff open for my small blind with ace-jack suited, 3-betting 10-11% in this spot. Upper left-hand table, open ace-10 suited for middle position using the 21% range. Recreational player calls in position, as does the big blind. I'll check range sandwiched between these two guys. I've got the nut flush draw on the 9-3 deuce two-tone board. Turn is an offsuit 4, putting a second flush draw up there. Get led into for about 75% by the small blind. I will float that for a call, looking to hit my spade. I turn the nuts. That makes me happy. He goes ahead and bets 75%. Gonna have a little more, about 1.5x pot left behind me here. After the call, I'm gonna go ahead and just jam all in with the nut flush. Hold him out. Sooner or later, these guys are gonna get sick of my spazzy bullshit and put the money in on the river, and I've been making strong hands here. Lower right-hand table, I defended the big blind against a 2.5x cutoff open. He goes ahead and puts in a small bet on the ace-king-8 two-tone board. I do have a flush draw. I am going to go ahead and put in a check raise with my flush draw against that small bet size. I'm going to take that one down. Upper left-hand table, the rec limps. Reg on the button isolates him to 6. I'm going to pop him up out of the small blind with ace-king suited. I'm going to 3-bet probably about 10-11% here in this particular spot. Ace-king suited, of course, a very standard 3-bet. The rec limp calls the raise and the re-raise. The in-position player folds out. I flop top pair top kicker on king 5-4. Going to go ahead and range bet him small and start looking to get some more money in against this guy. But he quickly folds out against that bet. Lower right-hand table, 2.5x open from the cutoff. I'll 3-bet my small blind with pocket 9s. 3-betting 10-11% here. Pocket 7s are better. Upper left-hand table, open sixes from the cutoff using the 28% range. Get 3-bet in position. The rec cold calls the 3-bet, which makes me a lot more inclined to call with a hand like pocket sixes here. Against a 3x3, but I can really defend sixes in this formation anyway. But with the deep stacked recreational player in there giving me a chance to call with the even better odds to see that flop, and knowing I've got a good chance of making some money if I can hit that third six against this guy post-flop, I'm definitely getting in there with those sixes. He rec checks, I check. We have an ace-7-7 two-tone board, in position player. Could be a little bit worried about aces full, but we're not deep against him, so whatever. Lower right-hand table, a rec limps in the middle position. I'll isolate from the cutoff with something like my middle position open range, about 21%. I've got pocket queens right here. Upper left-hand table, the rec leads about 20 into about 48. I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Lower right-hand table, the rec limp calls. We get a queen 10-8 rainbow board. I'll go ahead and range bet him small. And he clicks it back from 599 to 1198. I will, of course, defend that. We get to the turn. Turn is the 6 of clubs. Beaten everything except 9-7 and Jack-9 for straights. He goes ahead and he bets half pot. Top set, I'm going nowhere. Come along for a call. River's nice and blank also, an offsuit 3. He goes ahead and bets half pot. I mean, could he have me beat with a straight? Yeah, of course he can some of the time, but that half pot bet does not signify strength to me, and I do think I can get called down by enough non-straight hands here that justify blasting all in with my top set, so that's what I'm going to do. He quickly calls, and my hand is good, and I pick up a stack from the rec. Things are starting to turn around for me here. I got called down by 8-10, so bottom 2 pair. And that's why not raising all in there would be on the river would be a fucking travesty, in my opinion. You've got to try to get the value right there. If he actually has the nuts, so be it. He's going to have the nuts every once in a while, but these guys are going to pay you off, and your hand is just so high up in the range of possible hands in that spot that you want to be getting as much value from these guys before they quit and leave the table with their money or one of the other regs busts them. Lower left-hand table opening king-9 suited from middle position using a 21% range. Lower right-hand table facing a 2.5x open from the cutoff. I will defend my big blind with 10-7 suited for a call and check range on the flop. He's a little on the tight side, so I actually can be a bit tighter myself, but I'm still going to go ahead and defend 10-7 suited for that price. He goes ahead and bets about a quarter pot on the ace-high board. I got a backdoor flush draw. I got some equity to get out of this pot. I'm going to go ahead and check raise him. Lower left-hand table, get an ace-ace-king two-tone board. I'll check range to the rec in position. Turn is an offsuit 10. I'm going to go ahead and start probing small now. Interesting turn card for me, the lower right-hand table. I pick up a flush draw on the jack of diamonds. Having picked up equity, I'm going to continue barreling here. Lower left-hand table, going to open king-jack under the gun using an 18% range. I get called. Oh man, no. Ace-X is going to be hard to get to fold here, and it's going to be hard to get a flush to fold, of course, or trap full houses are never going anywhere. Given that I think he's got so many hands that just don't really fold, and there's no auto folds with the draws all coming in, I'm going to do what I pretty much never do and surrender the river without showdown value. I'm just going to give up my 10 high here. Check fold. Yeah, he had trip aces. I don't know. Does he find a fold if I jam there? I'm not so certain that he does. And that's one of the weaker hands in his range at that point as well. I think my earlier street play is fine, though. Lower right-hand table, opening king-5 suited from the button. using the 44% range. Get 3-bet by the small blind. I defend pretty liberally here against 3-bets in the button versus small blind spot, especially against that 4x size. It's a bit smaller from regs. However, he's been passive so far. I don't know that I need to defend as what as I normally do, as he really isn't all that active pre-flop. Hasn't 3-bet yet. It's close. I'm going to go ahead and fold. Upper right-hand table facing the 3x open blind on blind. I will 3-bet my big blind with king, queen suited, 3-betting 17, 18%. Upper left-hand table, I open 10-jack suited from middle position using the 21% range. Rec calls me in position, as does the big blind. I will check range to the in-position player. It's an ace-queen-jack monotone board. I do have a pair and a gut shot. I'll call that small stab there, 6 into 15, and continue checking the turn. Mostly folding the turn unimproved. River is the 5, putting a 4 flush out there. I'm no longer going to consider my hand to have showdown value. I'll just turn it into a bluff and lead out for about 2/3 pot. He calls with a weak flush, the 3 of hearts. Whatever. A 3-7 offsuit. Upper left-hand table, Rec limps the cutoff, small blind completes. I'm in the big blind with queen-jack suited. I'm going to pop him up using a tight 12-ish% range. 8s or better suited broadways, ace-10 plus, king-jack, king-jack, king-queen. Rec folds, small blind calls. I'm going to range bet if he checks to me here on this 9-4-3 rainbow board, which he does. I can barrel all kinds of cards like 10s, jacks, queens, clubs. Lots of ways to keep putting money in that pot on later streets. Upper left-hand table, blind on blind. I'm opening queen 9 using a 45% range. Get called by the big blind. I will check range to the big blind. We have second pair on ace, queen 9 rainbow. He blasts for full pot. I'm actually going to be a bit on the tight side here. I'd be calling with hands like queen X or jack X that have straight blockers and gut shot draws. I'd be calling with most of my ace X. Queen 9 here I think is actually okay to fold against the pot size bet here on a texture like that. It may seem a bit nitty, but I think it's actually very reasonable. Upper right-hand table, opening queen-jack from the cutoff using a 28% range. Upper left-hand table, the rec limps under the gun. I'll isolate from the button with something like my cutoff open range, 28%. I've got queen-jack offsuit this particular time. Big blind calls, rec calls. Got an ace 7-6 two-tone board. No real piece of it, no backdoor draw, so I'll be checking back. Turn is a 9, flush closing card. I still don't have too much going for my hand, but I may start taking stabs at it if everybody checks around to me twice. Can have some weak ace-high flushes here for sure that check back the flop, as well as other weak ace-x. Can have some 8-10 that doesn't bet the flop, or 5-8. Oh, 5-8 would bet the flop. Can even have some low flush draws that didn't bet the flop here. I'm going to go ahead and fold against that lead, but plenty of reason to think that I can actually have strong hands there in that spot. Three X open, blind on blind, first hand of the new table. Lower right-hand table will defend for a call towards the bottom, but a standard defense blind on blind for a 3X open here with the queen 8. Be folding that flop, though, against a bet. He checks on 4-3 deuce flop. I don't have too much going for the hand. I'm going to stab and just try to take it away. Can turn a queen or an 8 for a top pair, so I'm not completely dead in the water here. Get called. Turn is a king. I think I'd want to be betting my ace-5, my 5-6 type hands, as well as my sets. I can have all the sets, as those wouldn't be re-raised pre-flop. I can make some decent king X. I can also have diamond draws or 5x open-ended straight draw type hands. No reason to bet queen 8 here. The queen or the 8 will play real nice in the river as a under-repped value bet or a bluff catcher if he leads into me, but will play a lot less well if I bloat this pot with a turn blast. So I'm going to go ahead and check it back. River is a 5, putting a 4 straight out there. Now he goes ahead and he bets 14 into 22. I can have some 6x or some ace-x. I'm going to go ahead and put a raise in on this guy and try to take this pot away. I think he's probably on the weak side there. And he takes it down. If he bets bigger, he may be able to get me to not do that bullshit. But when he bets a little weak like that, I'm just going to try to take it away from him. Left-hand table open, ace-3 suited under the gun, using an 18% range. Maybe a little wider because of the fish in the position that's deep and the other fish in the big blind. Ace-3 suited can be an open either way, though. Now I get 3-bet here. And then the fish overcalls. Given that I've got some, certain boards will make absolute nut type hands, I'm coming along here. Not something I do frequently, but got a chance to draw to some nut type hands, so I want to get in there, especially when I'm super deep against this fish. Get a Jack 4 Deuce rainbow board. I'll go ahead and check to the in position player. Lower left hand table, limp, blind on blind. I'll pop up with something like my button open range, about 44%, including Queen 7 suited. In position player stabs for a little less than half pot, and the rec calls. I got a gut shot to the wheel and a backdoor flush draw. I'm coming along for a call, looking for that 5, or at least a spade. Don't see it, but I think the strategy is relevant. Board runs out 8 king to put a backdoor flush draw up there. I've got ace high. It's really just not good here, but I may be able to pick up this pot with the bluff, so I'm going to go ahead and try it. Knock out the in position player. And I knock out the small blind player. Glad I didn't get kind of wimpy and decide to not try to bluff because there's fish in the pot. Fish will fold. Lower left-hand table, a rec limps under the gun, or suspected wreck at least, playing 30 blinds deep and open limping. In the small blind with Queen 10 suited, going to go ahead and pop them up. Popping up my suited broadways, 8s or better. Ace 10 plus King Queen, maybe any 2 cards, 9 or higher, like King 9, Queen 9, Jack 9. Suited versions of them. Pretty tight, about 12%, just big pairs and big suited cards, or slightly bigger offsuit cards like Ace and King high. Now he limp raises for half this stack. Just far out of there. Not shoving over the top, not calling. Upper right-hand table, opening Queen 8 suited from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Lower right-hand table, I face a 3x open from the button. I'm in the big blind. I will defend for a call with my King 10. Check range on the flop. Upper left-hand table, the rec limps under the gun. I'll isolate from the button with King 8 suited using something like my cutoff range, about 28%. Upper left right-hand table, opening Queen Jack suited under the gun, using an 18% range. For right-hand table, the button checks back. I'm going to go ahead and stab at that. Turn and river. Let's see. River is an ace. I could have 7x here. He really can't by not betting the flop. I am going to continue bluffing, and I'm going to use a large size here to put either Queen X or Ace X in a real predicament. Plus, I don't block the auto folds, which is also nice because I don't really block the flush draws at all. Upper left-hand table, I checked back on the Jack 10-7 rainbow board. Turn is a good card for me as it gives me an open-ender, but this short stack player blasts for pot, and he only has a very small amount left behind, and there's just not much merit in drawing to my open-ender here, so I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. I just can't win that much if it comes in, as there's no money left behind. Lower left-hand table, get a 3x open from middle position, button calls. I'll call my big blind with pocket 4s, closing the action, check range on the flop. Pretty clean flop for 4s, 5-5 deuce two-tone. RFI player checks back. The in position player stabs for half pot. I think I'm better served by check raising as opposed to check calling here. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a check raise. I can have 5x, deuces full, or some combo draws. He might even fold some actual like mid pairs, like, you know, 6s through 10s or something like that. That is a great turn card for me, giving me the open ender as well. So now I think I have to keep going for it. Use a half pot sizing to set me up 140 pot on the river, 132 behind. Actually, I'm going to use a smaller size to force him to call and then fold rivers a lot more. And now, actually, I have some showdown value here. I don't think I need to turn this into a blast-off hand anymore. I'm going to check down. It's pocket sevens. Maybe I could have tried to move the sevens off, but I don't know. I think my play is pretty reasonable. If I get a river that's less good for my hand's actual value, I'm going to follow through and turn that into a bluff and put the sevens into a real sticky spot there. Lower right-hand table open ace-10 from middle position using a 21% range. Upper right-hand table open in threes from middle position using that same 21% range. Face a 3-bet on the upper right-hand table with threes out of the big blind for about 4.5x. No need to defend with pocket threes in this tighter than typical formation. It's a pretty healthy 3-bet size, even in position. Lower left-hand table opening king-queen suited from the button using a 44% range. Do want to wrap the session up pretty soon here, but it's really hard to leave when there's a real big whale sitting deep with me at this table, so I'm going to drag this out as long as I can. Lower right-hand table opening king-9 from the button using a 44% range. Get quickly called by the small blind player, which makes me a little bit suspicious that he's any good. Just really shouldn't be calling too much in that spot. He checks to me. I'll go ahead and range bet small in position. Got overcards on the 6-5-5 rainbow board. Turn is a 4, putting the backdoor flush draw up there. I could continue betting with, you know, first of all, strong hands, any kind of good 5x. A lot of my overpairs. I can semi-bluff with 7x type hands and a variety of flush draws. No need to be ballasting here with king-9. Look to get to the river where I can bluff if he checks again, or bluff catch if I hit a pair. Value bet if I hit a pair. Bluff if I whiff. He had ace-queen, turn top pair, and never getting that to fold in that spot, but I do think it's kind of weak to not 3-bet that hand pre-flop. Upper right-hand table is open 9-8 suited blind on blind using a 45% range. Get 3-bet. It's his first 3-bet in 16 hands. Not all that many opportunities, though. I'm just going to go ahead and assume he's more or less a standard reg for the most part, and I can defend pretty liberally here in this extremely loose formation where there should be lots of 3-betting going on, including lots of my suited connectors. I'll call 8-9 suited, check range on the flop. Great flop for my hand. 8-3 deuce two-tone with the flush draw to go with the pair. I normally would check raise my flush draw and backdoor flush draws. Here I'm trying to decide. I'm not really going to fold out the overpairs. I think there's not really as much merit in check raising the weak pair with the flush draw, so I'm going to go ahead and check call that and just continue playing some poker. Lower right-hand table blind on blind, facing a 3x open. Going to go ahead and defend for a call with king-9 suited. Turn is an offsuit 10 on the 3-bet pot and upper right-hand table. It checks through. River is an offsuit 6. Going to continue checking, give him a chance to bluff with his whiffed overcards and bluff catch. Oh, and he's got queen-8. What the hell? Interesting. Lower right-hand table, I stabbed after the check on the ace-jack 6. two-tone board, a rainbow board rather. He check calls, turn is a queen, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. I now have a gut shot to go with my king high. I'm going to go ahead and continue blasting my gut shot in this particular case and plan to continue bluffing on the river here. Ace X is an interesting card, and I'm probably not folding too much Ace X out here any longer. I don't think I want to be using the overbet size now the way I had otherwise planned to, as I just don't think I can fold Ace X. I am going to just go ahead and use a more standard bluff size, not giving up king high, trying to fold out the queen or the jack. I just don't want to be overbet blasted into an Ace X that check called under rep this hand and it's got a hand that's just not going to fold. I can have all kinds of Ace X here as well. Incredibly get some folds from those other hands. Lower left-hand table, opening queen jack from the button using a 44% range. Do have a fish in the big blind. Probably opening a few extra hands because of that. Get an ace 10-7 two-tone board. Going to go ahead and put in the small range bet here after he checks. Turn is an offsuit deuce. Now I've got a gut shot with the flush draw blocker. I want to bet some of those gut shots, so I'm going to go ahead and prioritize the ones with the flush draw blocker. I'm going to use the overbet or check size to put his marginal hands in a tough spot. And I take it down on the turn. Upper right-hand table, blind battle, min raise. I defend the min raise with ace-4 and pretty much every other hand that can be dealt except for the bottom couple of percent. He checks to me on the king 8-5 rainbow board. I stab for half pot and against a check call. In the 5 turn, board pairing, backdoor flush draw, bringing card. I'm going to go ahead and check back my ace high. Look to turn an ace or a 10 to bluff catch or even value bet the river. Probably otherwise just try to show this down. Probably not too much merit in bluffing or even bluff catching here at this point. Yeah, because even various draws around the 5-8 cards now either have a pair or the straight. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold, especially against a slightly larger size. Upper right-hand table, opening king 4 suited from the cutoff using the 28% range. Get 3-bet to a small size by the small blind. 3x size, a very small out of position 3-bet size. Still don't know that I need to be all that loose against it. Even if he's very aggressive, I just don't know that I need to defend with king four suited, one of my weakest cutoff open hands there. We'll go ahead and fold that. Upper right-hand table opening king queen suited from middle position using a 21% range. Get called by the big blind who checks to me. I'll range bet small on the queen 9-4 two-tone board. Upper left-hand table, a recreational player opens 3x from middle position. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet my cutoff with ace-king. Only 3-betting about 8% in that particular spot. Lower right-hand table, get a limper blind on blind. I'll go ahead and pop him up with king-6 suited. Upper right-hand table, we get a check call, offsuit deuce, nice blank turn card. I'll go into overbet or check mode and overbet my strong top pair. Now, I get 4-bet and 4-bet small. I normally just jam ace-king over the 4-bets, but given that this 4-bet is so small, I can call so much more and I'm rewarded so much less when it gets through. I'm just going to go ahead and take the flop with pretty much everything except maybe pocket kings here. I guess I would raise back with that. Especially since this guy's been on the loose passive side as well. We get a queen, queen, deuce, rainbow board. He checks. I'll check my ace-king back. Keep moving this closer to showdown with ace-king high. Now he blasts 50 into 67, and I will gladly go ahead and fold. I think I probably got away from not having to stack up with ace-king against a very strong hand, or at least a strong range right there. Lower right-hand table opening queens under the gun using an 18% range. Get called by an in-position player and by a small blind player. Small blind call is somewhat questionable. We'll go ahead and give him a maybe tag for now. He leads into me on the monotone board. I've got an overpair with the relevant diamond, low monotone board, 7-5 deuce. I'm going to continue my entire continue range for a call, trapped in between multiple players. Queens definitely wants to call, doesn't necessarily love raising. It should slow things down a lot, the four diamond board here. I'm going to go ahead and check back my weaker four flush here with the queen of diamonds. Now he goes ahead and he bets 6 on the river into 39. I'm going to go ahead and put in a small value raise here against that. And quickly folds. Lower left-hand table, a Rick limps under the gun. A regular player isolates him up to $10. I'm in the small blind with ace-king. Going to go ahead and pop that up. Planning to stack off with queens plus ace-king. Upper left-hand table, the recreational player open limps middle position. I'm going to pop him up from the small blind with king-queen. He goes ahead and calls. Normally I'd range bet, but this hand is such an ideal hand for a check call line on the ace-king-deuce rainbow board. I'm going to check. I'm never folding him off an ace, but I can induce a lot of bluffs in the check line here. I'm going to go into sort of a check call mode here, give him a chance to put money in with total air. Hand doesn't need really any protection. There's no equity denial. He blasts for pot on the flop, which doesn't necessarily mean anything as of yet. Check call. Good turn card for me, giving me two pairs, kings and queens on ace, king, deuce, queen, full rainbow board. And I just outdrew any of his ace-x hands that he might have had. So we're going to be looking to call down here for the most part. He goes ahead and blasts pot again. Continue with my calling. Lovely river, the board pairing deuce that counterfeits my two pair. Going to go ahead and check and hope to God he just surrenders, which he does, and my king-queen is good anyway. He had 6-9 of clubs, so he just starts barreling off, and my flop check there helped me pick up half a buy-in, because he almost certainly folds if I bet into him there with nothing going on, but once he decides to start stabbing against the check, I can snap off the bluffs. Working on trying to do some alternate lines to further exploit fish, just because balance doesn't really matter against these guys. They don't know what the hell I'm doing. And they make all kinds of mistakes if you put them into spots where they are prone to doing so. Lower right-hand table, opening king-10 suited from middle position using a 21% range. Got called by an in-position player from the cutoff. It's a little bit questionable move. You shouldn't be flatting too much from the cutoff at these kind of stakes for that size opening. We'll give him a maybe tag and keep an eye on what else he's doing. He gets squeezed from the button, so I can just get out of the way there. Get a 3x open from the under the gun player. I almost always am going to play 3-bet or fold here, but 8s are a little bit outside my standard 3-bet range. And I kind of want to induce the recreational player to come into this pot with me, as he's so prone to doing, where I'm trying to hit a set. So I'm going to go ahead and deviate and call with the 8s. 8s are the exact kind of hand that does want to call in position. Not something I do a lot of, especially against a 3x open, but we got a pretty unusual situation with a whale that we're deep against, almost 400 blinds deep. So I'm going to do some things I won't normally do. Looking to get a chunk of that stack. Upper right-hand table, blind on blind. Going to open ace-3 using a 45% range. Decent flop for the 8, 7-5-3 two-tone. Do have an overpair. Back into a straight, I suppose. Get called by the big blind. I'll check range to the in-position player. Mostly check folding on the Jack-10-8 two-tone board with a very weak ace-high. I get led into for pot by the rec on 753. I will flat with the eights. He could be doing this with nonsense and even for value with hands like weird 7x that I beat. So turn is a 5. Let me see here. I think I want to check back and just pretty much call the river. River is a 3, so the board double pairs. Now he goes ahead and blasts for pot. I'm losing to 5x or 3x, but he could be doing this with 7x or all kinds of busted nonsense. I am calling. Got 6-3, so he made the boat. But the fact is, he's calling raises out of position in his blinds with 6-3 off, so I want to be in there against that guy. I guess in theory I could bet the turn, but I can also bet the river on most cards there too, and still get called down by his 3x. I don't want to really cry over him hitting a couple of slim draws. Upper right-hand table opening Queen Jack suited from middle position using a 21% range. Upper left-hand table, I'm facing a 2.5x raise from middle position, and I will defend my big blind with. Well, actually, let me think about this for a minute. He has actually been extremely tight and passive. I'm going to deviate and treat him more like another gun opener where I fold a few of my offsuit broadways like Queen 10. I'm just going to go ahead and fold that one. Pretty close, but I think it's okay against a guy that's been a total nit. First hand he's raised in 3 orbits. Get a 2.5x open from a player who's been very much on the tight passive side. I'm not going to treat him like a true button opener with how passive he's been, but I am still going to 3-bet him with some hands. I'm going to treat this more like, I don't know, maybe he's opening like or low 20%, and I still like to 3-bet at least one wheel ace in every situation, such as ace-5 suited, so this still becomes a 3-bet. But I'm only 3-betting him 7-8% here as opposed to more like 14-15% like I do against usual button openers. Upper right-hand table, blind on blind, opening 8s using a 45% range. And this player is certainly a confirmed wreck. 71% limp. No doubt about that. Upper left-hand table opened aces from the cutoff, using a 28% range. Small blind comes along as the recreational player in the big blind. Not the best flop for me to start out with 9-7-6 rainbow board. With that said, I'm not all that worried about the hand being beat quite yet. Small blind checks. The recreational player checks in the big blind. I'm going to go ahead and bet out using a small size as we're multi-way. Our right-hand table looks like we have a player that's posting. I'm going to go ahead and complete the small blind with 9-6 suited. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from the button. I'm going to go ahead and 3-bet out of a small blind with king-queen. 3-betting about 15% here. Upper left-hand table, opening 8-10 suited from middle position, using a 21% range. Rec comes along, get a queen, queen, 8, two-tone board. Going to go ahead and range bet him small, mostly checking back turns. King, queen gets called. Going to go ahead and put in a small range bet here. I got an ace, 9, 8, two-tone board, no club in my hand, mostly checking turns here. For left-hand table, open ace-10 under the gun, get a 3-bet in position. Going to go ahead and fold that against the 3-bet. Now I get raised. King, queen, nothing I can do but just go ahead and fold here. If I've got Jack-10 or some kind of flush draw, I'm going to ship it in there. Probably ship it in with the ace, good ace-X that needs protection. Probably trap with my sets. Lower right-hand table, opening threes from the cutoff. There's the 28% range. Get 3-bet in position, just go ahead and fold the threes. Lower left-hand table, the button opens 2.5. I'm going to go ahead and defend for a call out of my big blind with ace-10 here and check range on the flop. Pretty good flop for my ace-10, ace-7-5 two-tone. Mostly be check calling here. Yeah, check call against the small bet. Turn is the deuce of hearts, a flush closing card. Not ideal for me, but still not necessarily all that worried that my aces are beat. He checks back. River is a board pairing card, the ace, giving me trips. I think there's going to be more value in checking to let him bet a thinner hand or to just bluff with total air. So I'm going to do that and see if I can't induce. He doesn't take the bait. He had queen jack, though, so he certainly wasn't calling. Upper left-hand table, my buddy the rec open limps middle position. A reg in the cutoff pops him up to 6. I'm in the small blind with pocket 9s. Going to go ahead and put in a 3-bet there, of course. 3-betting about 8% here. 8s are better. Most suited broadways, ace-queen, plus a couple of wheel aces. Blind folds out, limper folds out. Reg folds out. I pick up the pot. Reks are gone on the lower left-hand table, but I do have pocket queens on the button, so I'll be opening those using a 44% range. Upper left-hand table open an ace-queen suited from middle position using a 21% range, perhaps a bit wider to go after the recreational player. And called in position, the rec calls out of the small blind, big blind comes along and calls, going to be checking range here, sandwiched multi-way between players. Got a backdoor flush draw on king 6-3 rainbow. Flop checks around, turn is a 4, putting a backdoor flush draw up there. Rec leads for half pot. I've got nothing really going on here for me, so I'm just going to go ahead and fold. Four X open on the lower right-hand table from a middle position player. I'm going to start getting real cautious against those size-ups, and there's no reason I need to defend my big blind all that widely against a size-up like that. I'm going to go ahead and fold 6-4 suited. You know, against a more standard sizing like 2.5x or really even 3x, I could defend there, but against that 4x, I'm going to be very cautious and tight. For left-hand table, I'll open ace-6 from the button using a 44% range. Big blind comes along. I'll range bet here in position. Mostly checking turns here on the 10-8-4 two-tone board. Got check raise small, but I've got such a weak low equity hand. Even the back doors are extremely weak. I'm going to go ahead and fold it out. Let's see. Upper right-hand table, I got King 5 suited in middle position. That's really just outside the standard open for me. Go ahead and fold it. Pretty close, but I'll go ahead and fold it. Lower left-hand table, 2.5x open from the button. I will be defending my big blind here pretty widely against a button open for that size, including most suited cards like Queen 7 suited. Upper left-hand table, opening Ace-Queen from middle position. Using a 44% range. Check call with this weak gut shot here on the monotone 8-5-4 monotone board. Continue checking on the turn. Got called in 2 spots on the upper left-hand table. We'll check back in position with Ace-Queen high on 9-7 deuce two-tone. We'll fold my weak gut shot here against the second barrel on the monotone flop lower left-hand table. Upper left-hand table, we get a king. Nobody stabbed at it twice. Going to go ahead and start blasting with my Ace-Queen high. Try to take this pot away. And I do, even with the small bet. Upper left-hand table, opening King-Queen under the gun. Using an 18% range. Get 3-bet by the small blind, and King-Queen's an easy fold in a tight formation against a 3-bet. Upper right-hand table, get a 2.5x open from the button. I'll 3-bet my small blind with Ace-Jack using a roughly 15% range, not 45% range. That's a bit too aggressive to 3-bet, even in a loose formation, of course. Now I get 4-bet. I can defend pretty widely against 4-bets in this loose formation, but not a hand like Ace-Jack. That's one of my weakest 3-bets. Upper left-hand table, 3x open from the button. I've got Ace-9 in the big blind. I will defend for a call. Check range on the flop. Checks back on the King 4-3 rainbow. Turn is the Jack of diamonds. I'm going to go ahead and start probing the turn small. Probably overbet bluff on a flush closing river, as I have the nut flush blocker. Lower right-hand table, opening kings in middle position using a 21% range. Couple of wrecks limp. I'm on the button with 5-8 suited. I rarely limp behind, but this hand really seems a bit too janky to ISO. I think I'd probably rather ISO it anyway. I want to play it against a couple fish. I'll pop it up, even though that's way out of line. Lower right-hand table, going to go ahead and range bet the recreational player small with my kings. It's a 5-3 deuce two-tone board. I do have the diamond in my hand, which helps a little bit. He check calls. Turn is an offsuit ace. Going to go ahead and keep betting, this time over betting for value. I get a 4-3 deuce two-tone board. I'm going to go ahead and can put in a small continuation bet with my open-ender to the 5. Both players call me. Turn is a flush closing 5, giving me top pair, but on a flush closing board with 4 to the straight. I'm just going to go ahead and check this back. Hope to show this down nice and cheap, though I don't expect this hand to be good very often, and I do not plan to bluff catch it. Rec leads for pot. The other rec calls. I'm out of the way. We get a flush versus a flush. King and ace high flush. Lower left-hand table, opening king 9 suited from middle position using the 21% range. Getting 3-bet in position, I will go ahead and fold. Upper left-hand table, open 8-6 suited, a bit outside of standard 28% cutoff open range for me, but fish in the big blind, going after him. Three-bet in position by a player who's been very tight, very passive, easy fold. Queen 10 in middle position, upper left-hand table. Again, slightly outside of standard open for me. I'm going after the whale in the small blind, playing a few more hands, so I'm going to open this one. Called by the button in position. The rec squeezes me. He has raised 3-bet 1%, 1 at a 98. So that's his second 3-bet. Going to get super tight against that guy's 3-bets there. Damn shame I got 3-bet there, picking up top 2 on the Queen 10 deuce two-tone board, but my hand's already in the muck, so it's got nothing to do with whatever happens next. The imposition player flat called the 3-bet as well. The rec had ace-king. Pocket 8's got the showdown good against that little cheap turn probe, and otherwise the streets were all checked. The whale has left. My session has gone on far longer than I ever planned it to, so I'm going to shut it down now as the reason for my plane is no longer with us. Lower right hand table got a rec open limps. A reg isolates him to 10. I'm on the button with Queen 10, so they're going to go ahead and 3-bet that up. 3-betting if we get jammed on to call off with Queens plus as well as Ace King. Three betting about 7% there, even with the bloating size. Lower right-hand table, opening Jack 10 suited from middle position, using a 21% range. That's the end of the session. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, this is Charlie Murphy signing off.